Israel Mkhize is an economist with Bukindaba Consulting, and he joins us in the studio. Welcome.
Thank you for having me, Colin.
There seems to be an argument that says there's little money that we are earning and too little to save because we have to take care of the basics. What do you say to that argument?
No, that is not correct. That is not correct. If you check between 2005 to 2015, there's been a rise on net disposable income, which unfortunately has also been met with a rise in the lack of savings, for instance, or a decline in savings. For instance, you had back in 2005 a savings ratio at 11.4%, but now it's at 15. No, that's the GDP, but at personal, you've got now 0.44 ratio at savings. So from 11.2% falling down to 0.44. With the rise, as I've said, on net disposable income, there's been a decline on savings. Number two, if you check, we are in a negative territory anyway. So that might have a slight effect on how people relate their need to spend, particularly on catching up on social mobility, because that's what plunges most people into spending. What I've also noticed is that if you compare South Africa with other BRICS countries, we probably are the high income earners if you look at the brackets of the emerging countries, but we are the least savers. We earn more than the Chinese on relative market prices, but they save their GDP at 50%, India about 35%, Australia at 25%. Brazil at 22% or so, but ours is at 14.4%. And if you look at our history of saving, particularly on the GDP, it has not been that good. Even the lowest on our BRICS counterpart, which is about 22%, the highest saving ratio we've ever been to was about 17.6%, the lowest being 14%. Well, I'm giving you all these figures. I'm saying we don't have a relatively good savings history in spite of the rise in terms of net disposable.
Why is it a problem in spite of the financial advice of fiscal discipline?
Yeah.
Then why can't we apply that corporate or institutional jargon into personal finances and say that one needs to manage their finances conservatively and to understand that it is important to save no matter what?
Look, it's pretty hard to save in a socio-economic environment such as ours, where you are bombarded in media with advertisements to consume. And in anyway, the economy, while on one hand it does need a huge chunk of saving so that there could be investment, but on the other hand, you need to encourage consumer spending. You need to encourage business spending or business investment. That gives you the equation for the GDP, a good GDP. But you have a consumer who is faced and bombarded by the retail sector with high level of marketing and attraction into spending. And then you've got high disparities of income brackets. Even those who are in the middle income or upper middle income, the ones that are said their net income has risen, you find that they're also struggling. So it's not a question that it's people who earn little who are failing to actually...
But some of the people is the issue of this matter being self-inflicted. Why do South Africans feel that they owe the society any explanation through splashing, through showing that they are doing well, whereas they are actually not telling the truth?
You know, I cannot dissociate this with the question of perceived dignity, which unfortunately we arrived to by means of debt. I mean, South African household is over 80% indebted, you know. In fact, we indebted, South African is indebted in terms of we buy food on credit, loans, your credit cards, and you find that 26% of South Africans are saving to pay off debt, not to invest. And you find that around 35% are saving to buy cars. And you know that cars have a depreciating value. And to some extent, they are debt as well. So there is that conflict between that desire to self-actualize. But because we do not have this chunk of saving or this tradition of saving, whether it's our net disposable income, I guess we end up on some between a rock and a hard place, because we also find that this is not a trend only on the low income group. You also find it on very high.
Let's talk about the issue of financial literacy. Let's talk about it in terms of learning about finances, but the practical application of the knowledge, but also the feedback in terms of experience, whether you felt the pinch of what is it like to be in financial dire straits, and remedies that you can apply in order to fix your financial situation.
It goes back to the type of education that the larger majority of our people have been exposed to. Because if you're talking 20 years of a transformed system, including new education policies, where the previous policies have emphasized on producing a class of labor rather than entrepreneurs, because within the discourse of entrepreneurship, that's when you learn on issues of investment, on issues of portfolio, diversification of portfolio, etc. So you have a majority of people, particularly the adults, say from age 25 up to 64, who are struggling with the short and medium term kind of savings. The long-term kind of service over time has been managed through the systematic arrangement of insurance or pension funds, where you are subjected to a systematic saving. But on the short to medium term, it's like even when people's monies are in banks, they keep them in money market, which would give you your annual around 7% increase, or sort of a cap on that investment. They don't put it into well-diversified investment options that could probably return 7.65 or to 8%. So you find that even what is saved, also because of the problem of the bank charges, because the banks are also doing business. People have grew up understanding that if you put your money into the bank, it will have, we used to call it ikwana, it will have some interest, right? But now people are going back to save where in stokvels. So they would save for 12 months only to have their return on saving at the end of the year, and you find that that's invested again on retail and food, which over time escalate because of food price seasons, because of rain, drought, and so on and so forth. So that's why there is this tendency that there's a serious discrepancy whether one's net income, disposable income, is rising. You find that they're still getting highly indebted.
Right. Thank you very much for making time to speak to us. All right. Israel Mkhize is political economist with Bukindaba Consulting, speaking to us about Savings Month. And as you can see on the screen, breaking news is that Minister of Mineral Resources suspends implementation of a reviewed charter pending judgment. And we'll have all this and more later on in our program. Let's take a break and we'll be right back.